See, today I'm going to hit up another RPG review of an RPG I've been doing some research on, and I feel comfortable enough having done the research. I have not gotten this one to the table yet, but I do intend to here soon. I'm working on putting together the pre-gens and stuff so people can actually do it. I'm going to run some one-shots of it to get people interested, and that's the Goblin Slayer RPG. If you're familiar with the manga or the anime, it is the same thing. Uh, and the basis of the game are you are adventuring in the four cornered worlds, uh, fighting the demons, the goblins, the ogres, all that fun stuff that's common to the anime and the manga. Uh, Goblin Slayer has actually turned out to be one of my favorite animes in the more recent past here. So I absolutely adore Goblin Slayer right now. Um, just to address the elephant in the room, yes, there is that horrible SA scene in the first episode, and I've already talked about that in another video, so I'm not going to talk about it again. But Goblin Slayer itself, the RPG, is an excellent RPG based off of Sword World. Uses a lot of the Sword World principles. Everything is done on a 2d6 system, which makes it very simple. Characters are pretty simplistic to play. If you look at the sheets look very complicated, but the system itself is actually really simple. It relies on class levels uh, for each class, and there are I think six or eight classes. There is. Let me make sure I tell you everything right because I don't want to lie to you. There is. Jump on the classes in here real quick. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head without looking at the sheet. There is fighter. Actually, I'm just looking at the sheet. There is fighter, monk, ranger, scout, sorcerer, priest, dragon priest, and shaman. Um, half of them are spellcasters, half of them are fighter types, and you can mix and match classes in this game in any combination you choose. Um, so you can play a sword swinging sorcerer, or you can play a definitive priest. It only has 10 levels per class, and there's only 10 levels, adventurer levels in the game. It follows the class structure of the manga adventuring guild, which is you start at porcelain rank and you end at, I don't remember what the highest rank is right now. I think it's platinum. I think it's the highest rank. And your characters advance that way. It does. Yeah, I'll put that on my to-do list. I'm sorry, guys. My phone decides to go off in the middle of this. Let me do something so that doesn't happen again. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Every time I want to do a video or something, my phone will start going off. I didn't think about it. And what goes on with this game is you're going to track multiple ways to gain levels and to gain abilities. So you gain experience, which is used to gain class levels. And then you gain what are called advancement points, which are used to gain skills and upgrade existing skills to higher tiers. Skills in this game are divided by different tiers, starting at beginner, ending, I believe, at expert is the end of it. Let me double check that, make sure I don't lie to you here. Get to the character creation section here real quick and make sure I'm not lying to you. Blah, 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 blah. And not worried about that, not worried about that. I can't find it in the book right this minute. I'm trying to do as much off memory as I can. So, which if you guys are not aware, that's how I try to do these reviews. I try to study the book, read it through, and give you as much information as I can without getting too deep. But either way, there are 5 tiers for what are called adventurer skills. There's 3 tiers for what are called basic skills. Adventurer skills are things that you will use on an adventure, and they're going to be your more classical combat type events, spellcasting type talents, whereas general skills are things like dark vision and things like that will haunt general skills. There are also 5 races you can play, and the races are actually pretty cool in this game, believe it or not. You have the humans, dwarves, elves, lizardmen, and the Rhea. Um, all of them start with a starting profile for each of your stats. The way stats are in this game is you have 4 stats, and then you have 3 reflections on how those stats can be used. And what happens is, to get a score that you're going to add to your 2d6, you're going to combine 1 stat and 1 of the reflection sounds being used. So, for example, you have technique as a stat, and then you have reflexes and a way to use it. So, what you can actually do with it is you can use technique reflex, and it'll give you a total score when you add them together, and you'll add that to your 2d6 roll, plus your class level and some other stuff. Yes, Ear Trumpet, it did begin as a light novel. Just so people know what I'm talking about here. Yes, it did begin as a light novel. That I knew. I've never seen the light novels. I've only ever seen the actual mangas. I don't know if they ever got translated or not. By all means, if you guys know where to find the light novels, please let me know, because I'd actually like to check the light novels out. Because the manga kind of jumps right in. If you know anything about the manga and the anime, it kind of jumps right into the story. But anyway, so the way that the skill system in this game works is, they, instead of giving you a skill to roll, skills in this game will actually add modifiers to your roll. So if somebody tells you to roll, say, intellect plus focus, and you have a skill that gives you a +2 to that roll, there you go. There are tons of different skills in the game. There are tons of different general and adventuring skills. And again, they go up as you level, as you invest in advancement points to make them higher tier, from going from like beginner to intermediate, gives you better usage of that skill. So, and like I said, eventually you'll hit expert level with the skill, and you'll get the best bonus out of it. Your adventurer level goes from 1 to 10. It is calculated in the book. It tells you kind of how to calculate all that. You need a certain number of advancements, a certain number of adventures completed, a certain number of levels and classes, all of that before you actually level up classes, your total adventurer level. So that's all the basics of characters. You also do a little bit of a life path system and character creation, where you're gonna randomly roll your origins, and that's going to determine certain things. It can give you additional skills. It can give you starting class levels, things like that. You also can never start with more than 3 levels in a class. So that's a big thing. You only start with 3,000 experience to assign to classes. So you get 3,000 experience at the start of the game. That is free to spread out over classes. Classes cost a certain amount of experience per class level you buy. And there's a full table in the book for it. But you can only gain to 3 at creation. So generally speaking, you're going to average around 1 to 2 in a class level at creation. And again, the way to think of class levels in this game is they're almost like a proficiency bonus in 5.0, where instead of having specific skills or whatever assigned to a class, if the class applies to what you're doing, you add the class level. So when you're swinging a sword, for example, your fighting type class level will apply. So scout, ranger, monk, and fighter will apply to that strike, as long as you're using proper equipment, which there's a whole section here on what proper equipment means. As far as gameplay goes, checks are pretty simple. Like I said, super simple systematically for checks. You're going to roll 2d6. You're going to add whatever your they call it the base score is, which will be whatever the check is based on. So say you're trying to dodge out of the way of a falling rock, you may be using, you could be using, it's going to be something plus reflex. I'm going to check that real quick. It's very likely going to be technique plus reflex, or strength plus reflex, depending on how you're trying to get out of the way. You're going to add that, and then if any classes apply, like scout could apply to something like that, then you would add scout as well to that to create a base score. Then you're going to roll 2d6, add it together, trying to beat the difficulty number. Not very difficult at all. Combat is very simplistic in this game, yet it also is very driven as far as how you get around the combat section. How you get around in combat. So movement and uh, movement is kind of abstract. It's done in meters, but unlike a lot of games, it doesn't require a grid. You just kind of have to roughly know how many meters are between you and the opponent, because you have a reach of 5 meters in this game at all times. As long as you're not using like a bow or a crossbow or something like that, or a spell, you're going to have a base of 5 meter reach. You also have the option to flee combat, but must be declared at the initial start of a round. You can't just decide in the middle of a round to run. You can, and what I mean by that is there's actually a mechanic in here called fate points. Fate points, you can actually use them to get away for free without taking any damage, without the chance of getting caught. There also is a main action that you can use to flee, but if you use the main action to flee, there's another action in this game that allows characters or monsters to block and obstruct your movement. Again, that goes deeper into the system, a little deeper than I want to get into in this video. But an initiative check is 2d6, and then you would add the anticipate skill. If your character has anticipate, he would add the bonus from anticipate to it. And then any ties are re-rolled, and then you would kind of assign based on that. It's, again, very simplistic. The big thing with this game that you have to keep track of is, it's actually on the character sheet for each character, so it makes it easier. There's what's called the attrition track. So for each round of combat you go through in this game, you check off a box of attrition. And as attrition goes up, for every so many boxes, there's a special little, it's like a starburst on the attrition track. For each one of those you check, I apologize. For each one of those you check, you will take a point of fatigue. Fatigue builds up. If you get to a certain level of fatigue, you will just drop dead. So there are multiple parts there's a lot of kind of moving parts in this system. The attrition track to me is really unique, really interesting, because attrition does not reset at the end of one combat. Attrition follows you until you take a rest. So this game actually punishes you a little bit for going through repetitive combat, constantly fighting. And spell use is also extremely, extremely limited. Most people are going to have around 2 to 5 spells per day. And that's it. That's all they're going to get. And you have to buy additional spells per day. You start with a certain number based on your class, and then after that, forget it. You have to buy a skill to get new ones. Just like you have to buy a skill to gain new spells. You start with very limited spell selection, and then you have to buy skills to get new spells. Spell casting is it is a roll in this game based on the class that you're using. So spells can fail and fizzle out while you're trying to cast them, so you just lose the use of the spell per day. Crit rolls are, if you ever roll a 2, it's a crit fail. If you ever roll a 12, no matter what, it's a crit success. You would not normally succeed. It also adds 5 to the what they call the effectiveness score. Effectiveness score impacts things like bonus damage, and can tell you things like how much you beat somebody by in a race, or how well you do a task. It can even, if you have a high enough effectiveness score, you can have the speed at which you pick a lock or anything like that. Effectiveness score is very kind of, it's almost a little unique in how it plays out, and I really appreciate that. The RPG itself, though, like I said, that's the combat section. The spells section, pretty much you get a lot of standard fare. Minor heal, you can gain wings, dragon breath, all that kind of fun stuff. One of the specialties with magic in this game is if you are a priest, you cannot also take class levels in Dragon Priest, because priests worship the gods, Dragon Priests worship the Naga. So by logic, you can't worship both. Kind of makes sense. The combats can be kind of deadly because of fatigue. Once you start stacking fatigue, you start taking penalties because of the way life points work. If you ever take your life points and damage, you're basically winded. If you ever hit double your life points and damage, you are dead. Period. You would think that sounds like a lot, but it's not. Uh, a lot of weapons do 1d or 2d6 damage. And like I said, effectiveness score, what you roll, how much you beat the opponent's defense score by, is going to determine if you do additional damage and things like that. So overall, though, system is sound, pretty solid, pretty quick system. I know it sounds like, when I'm describing it, can sound like a lot. It's really not, because everything is on the sheet, including, like I said, including the attrition track, including your fatigue track. All your stuff that you need to keep track of is right there. How many spells you get to use per day, all your resistances, your dodge scores, all of that is already on the sheet for you. So you're not having to calculate anything on the fly. It's all just pre-calculated. Creation, I have gone through creation myself. I don't have a video of it, but I've kind of sat there and done creation. Pretty quick, pretty simple. Nothing complicated. What's up, Atmos? It's pretty simplistic. And the best part is the book's only about $20. Right now, you can get it on Amazon directly from Amazon for about $18 in hard copy, $10 in Kindle. You can buy it directly from Yin Studios. I put links to both of them in the description if you guys are curious about checking it out. But it's a great game from what I've read, what I've seen. I can't wait to see it on the table. It's just simplistic. It's not hard, and it really, honestly, to me, captures the feel of the Goblin Slayer world. The idea of the magic system being the way it is, the attrition track, the way that skills are used, all of that is amazing. It really captures the feel of being a guild fighter and things like that very well. So, in long story short, check out Goblin Slayer. Not going to be disappointed if you're into, manga, anime. If you're into foreign RPGs, it's definitely up there. Like I said, I believe it was based off of Sword World originally. So, but it does use D6 instead of D10s, and it's just really good. I mean, it really is, and it's worth checking out if you get a chance. But either way, guys, as always, I do welcome thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. You can always leave them below. I'm always happy to address them. And as always, just follow the 3 rules: no ad hominems, no picking fights, and absolutely no college dissertations. Other than that, guys, we hope you have fun, and we do hope